at the bottom. Toy Mishum Raimer, last line. Learn name Raimer. There are a man and a woman who can give birth to 5 different nations. Now, don't take this too literally, okay? Ketzad, how does this work? It should, instead of the word me, the Korban name changes to a goy. Okay, goy sheyesh lo eved v'shivcha. A goy has a slave and a slavette. Now, everybody here is a goy, right? Every single one of them. The master, the 2 slaves. V'olidu bonim, and the Evan and Shivcha give birth to kids. Harei goyim. These kids are goyim, right? One of these 2 kids, one of the 2 children of these Evan and Shivcha convert to Judaism. Then, Echad Ger, right? Echad Goy. Then you have one is a Ger and one is a Goy. That's 2. Nizgaya Rabba. What if the master became Jewish? V'giru l'shnei avodim, and he was Megayer the 2 slaves as well. V'olidu bonim, and the 2 slaves gave birth to kids. Okay, again, right? Harelu avodim. So now we have a 3rd level. We have goy, we have ger, and now we have an avodim. Rabbi Zira said. Now Rabbi Zira proves. I think is what Rabbi Zira means. Why does the Brisa set up that they both converted? Why doesn't the Brisa just have one of them convert? Either the man or the woman, right? So Hadam or let's say at least so Hadam must be that Goy Shabal Shivcha of a holy Ben must be if a Goy has a relation with a Shivcha and it has a kid, Havlad Eved, that the kid is an Eved. Because otherwise, if the halacha was different than that, then the Brisa should have told us that in the case where one of them converts and one does not, so then a potential difference in halacha applies. It doesn't. It says they're both converted. And then Brisa jumps from both being goyim to both being avodim. Since the Brisa didn't distinguish between only one of them converting, not the other one, it must be that it makes no difference whether one converted, both converted. Regardless, the kid is an eved as long as, of course, the mother is an eved. Okay. Now says the Mishra, and I should point out, this is important, that teaches us that even though a shivcha, Canaanis, is not fully Jewish, nevertheless she has the same status as a Jew in that all her progeny are Jewish. Just like a Jewish woman, all of her progeny are Jewish, so to all Shivcha Canaanis' kids are avodim, but of the Jewish sort. Okay? So quasi-Jewish avodim. So it says, furthermore, Shivcha, what if he released his Shivcha, the master released the Shivcha, and then her husband, who was still an Eved, had relations with her, and she gave birth that way. Havlad moms the kid is moms the kid is according to opinion holds that if an Eved has relations with a free woman, the kid is a mom, so we don't pass that way, but that's the way this Gemara paskins. V'achakach shikra Eved, what if then he released the male as well, V'oli ben, and then they conceived yet another child. Hareza Eved Meshulcha ben Eved Meshulcha, so then the next kid is a fully Jewish kid, the son of a released slave. So ultimately they have 5 sets of 5 kids. One of them is a guy, the other is a ger, the next is an eved, the 4th is a mamzer, and the 5th is a born Jew. Okay? So those are the 5 nations. Now the next case, we're having fun, right? Okay? Yesh mocher aviv. There's a person who sells his father, loses limo ksuvasa. Somebody who sells his father as slave in order to give his mother his ksuva. How does this work? Neat trick, right? A master had a male-female slaves. Ben, and these slaves, conceived a child. They had a boy. Okay. Shikras has shivcha. Then the master released the slave and fell in love with her, the slave woman. Then they saw and she married her. And as a prenuptial agreement, Kasav Kon the Kasav Noi brought all of his property over to that slave woman's child. Right? So all the slave woman's property now belongs to the child, And then, of course, the master dies, leaving all of his property to the slave woman's child, who is now a free man. Okay? Now his mother was now a widow, comes and says, well, you inherited all of my ex-husband's property. Give me from that what you inherited, right? Give me my ksuva. So how does he raise the money for the ksuva? Well, one way he could do it is by selling his own father, who's still a slave, in order to raise the money to pay off his mother's ksuva. Okay? Again, he started off as the son of two slaves. His mother was released in order to marry the master. The master wrote all of his property over as a bequest to his wife's son, the ex-slave boy, who's now freed. When the master dies and his mother, the master's wife, comes to the man of ksuva, he sells his own father, who's still an Evan, in order to raise the money to pay off the ksuva. Okay? So, says the Gemara further, Rabbi Meir says, Ein mamzerim turn losi lavo. So, if mamzerim are not readmitted into the congregation of Israel when the Messiah comes. When Mashiach comes, the mamzerim will live in Ashdod. Ashdod is considered to be like a low place in Eretz Yisrael. Malich and Tina, we take repugnant people. Eitel Tina, it's a repugnant place. Not a politically correct Gemara. The Sarayos and disgusting people, Eitel Sarayos to disgusting places. Right? Rabbi Yossi says it's mamzer turn lasi lava. Mamzer become Torah eventually. Shneimar says, Zak dilchem mayim torim. I will cast upon you pure waters, the Gomer, etc. And the assumption is that the pure waters he casts upon us is waters of declaring the mamzerin to be kosher. It's the only there in the post is not talking about mamzerin. It's talking about purifying us from our tumas and from all of your avodah zarah. Rabbi Yosef said, it was just said from all of your tumah and from all of your idolatry and would be silent. I'd agree with your interpretation of the pasuk, but it says again, in the sense at the end, but says, and the extra atahereschem is superfluous. So that part that's going to tell us that it's coming to cleanses us from the avodah zarah, from not just from the avodah zarah and the tumah, but also from mamzeros. Rabbi Yehuna b'shem Rabbi Yosef Amar. Rabbi Yosef said, "Ain't look Rabbi Yosef lost love, and loves not Rabbi Yosef in the world to come." In other words, mamzerim remain mamzerim. Now the Amud Yerushalmi at the bottom points out that the Bavli argues. Bavli does pass like Rabbi Yosef. The Yerushalmi pasuk is not like Rabbi Yossi. So the question is, so the Yerushalmi is much more harsh in this respect, right? It says mamzerim, main mamzerim. So the question is, which brings down the question that Achronim has, why bother pasking this? When Mashiach comes, Mashiach will decide how to paskin. We don't need to paskin. It's called Hilchos Mashiach, unnecessary psak halacha. So when Yerushalmi brings down the Tosfos, and Vazali says there is nafminas today. If you should be particularly careful not to marry a family which is under a cloud of suspicion because of mamzerus. If you pass on like Rabbi Yossi, so you don't have to be so careful because lasi love of mamzerim will become tar. But if you pass on like Rabbi Meir, then you better be careful because then even when Mashiach comes, there's never going to be any out for this family if they are in fact possible to get out of that situation. So therefore you have to take that into account when you pick somebody to marry in our day and age. Okay? New parak. Same topic. Masnisin. Asor Yuchsid Olam Bavel. 10 classifications of Jews came up from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael with Ezra. When Ezra came back at the time of the restoration, the rebuilding of the Second Temple, he brought up 10 categories of Jews with him. What are they? Kohanim, Kohanei, Leviim, Leviei, Israeli, regular Israeli. Chalolim, defiled Kohanim. Gerin, converts. Charurei, released slaves. Mamzirei, bastard kids. The Sine, Gibeonite kids, or adults. Shisuke, children who we do not know who their father was. Asufe, children who we know neither who their father nor mother were. Okay? Kohanim Levi Israelim may marry each other. Levi Israeli Geri v'charure v'chalole. A Levi Israel, a convert, a released slave, and a Kohen who's been denigrated of defiled because his father married a divorcee. And he was conceived that union. They're all allowed to marry each other. Gere v'charure, converts and released slaves, Mamzire and the bastards of the Sine and the Gibeonites, Shisuke, the one we don't know who the father was, Vasufi, the one we don't know who either parent was, Mutar Lavozeb said they're all allowed to marry each other. Okay? It says in Mara, how do we know each segment of the population came up with Ezra from Bavel? Kohani believe Israeli, how do we know those three? Hashem, because it says in the Pasuk, Vayalu b'nei Yisrael, they came up from the children of Israel, Minakwanim, from the priests Valavim, and the Levites Vamishorim, and the singers Vashorim, and the gatekeepers Vanasinim, and the Gibeonites. And Yerushalmi, they all came up to Jerusalem, B'shnas Sheva, in the 7th year, like Tachshasta, Melech, to the king Xerxes. Chaloli, how do we know that the defiled Kohanim came up? Hashem, because the Pasuk says, Bnei Kohanim, from the children of Kohanim, Bnei Chavia, Bnei Akoitz. They came up the children of Chavia, the children of Akoitz. Eila Bikshu Chsam Yisyasim, they looked for their lineages, the documents attesting to their lineages. Velonim too, and the documents were not found. Vayigolu Minakun, and they were repudiated from the priesthood. So that we see that defiled Kohanim. And the governor said to them, so why is he called the Tirshasa? This, by the way, is Nehemiah. Why is it called Tirshasa? Because he was permitted. Tirshasa means from the language of Shari, which means permitted in Aramaic. He was permitted to drink stam yeno, or he was permitted to drink wine, which was made by goyim, even though it became forbidden for the rest of Am Yisrael at the time. It says that Nehemiah was the butler for the king who brought him everything to drink. Now it says it says that when they found these Kohanim problems, it would tell them eat Kodesh Kodashim. Kodesh Kodashim, what stuff? What's Kodesh Kodashim? Which Korban? Chatos, right. Okay, so it sounds like, from this, it sounds like they can eat from the Truma, right, which is not the Beis HaMikdash. It's only Kodesh Mikdash weren't allowed to eat, right? So, says the Gemara, on Rabbi Yisrael said, you know why? Why are they allowed to continue to eat stuff for the Truma? Because the Chazaka, they were established in the pattern of eating Truma. When there was no Beis HaMikdash, right? Since they were in the pattern of eating Truma, even when they were living in Bavel, because they did take Truma Samaitis off in Bavel at that time. So then, so when they got up to it, so they continued eating. Says Mora Nichi Tamon. Wait a minute. I understand that the Truma of Chutzlaritz, there's no problem giving to these questionable Kohanim. Because the whole point of taking of Truma Chutzlaritz during those years when they were Bavel is, it says, Hatzivi Loch Tzionim. It says, set up for yourself signposts, meaning that the mitzvahs of Chutzlaritz are commemorative of the mitzvahs in Eretz Yisrael. They're not really true Truma Sumaisros mitzvahs. Now, of course, there are many mitzvahs which apply equally to Chutzlaritz to Eretz Yisrael, but not Truma Sumaisros. So the whole point of making Truma Sumaitz Chutzlaritz is like a Zionistic thing, right? To remind yourself of Eretz Yisrael. So for that, I understand that the Kohanim, even of questionable lineage, can eat that Truma. But here, once you get to Eretz Yisrael, how can you tamper with Truma Sumaitz? It seems to be Doraisa. Says him with a very easy answer. Truma Sumaitz was Doraisa. We can't rely on questionable Kohanim to eat them, to eat the Truma Sumaitz. Rather, Commandant, we're going like the military, Me'alein kibur ha'maisus, that all maisus was manazes the Rabbanan, right? It was accepted by Am Yisrael, even though it was not necessary for them to do so. So therefore, it's all my trumas maisus the Rabbanan, so therefore they allowed the Kohanim, even if they're questionable, to eat from these trumas maisus. Okay? Says the Gemara, Ad abod kohen urim betumim. It says that until a Kohen, it says that these families, Kohanim, of quite dubious lineage, were distanced from the rest of the Kohanim until a Kohen would arise with Naturim, the Naturim with the stones which lit up and provided answers from God to ascertain their status. So what kind of answer is that? But the Urim Tum in that time in the second base of Mikdash, Urim Tum were contingent on a certain name of God placed in the folds, and that ceased before the destruction of the first base of Mikdash, right? So rather, Elok Adam, when they said that you're off active duty until the Urim Tumim come back, it's the same like saying. Again, it just means it's going to take a very long time. Like until Tchias HaMesim, until we're actually able to accept you. So it's just like pushing them away without any valid reason, without any overt reason necessarily. Or actually, about Ben David, say wait till Mashiach when David comes, then things will be different. Of course, that's very much in the future. And therefore, what they're telling these guys is we have to wait for him to, which means basically the next 3,000 years you're out of the box when it comes to taking Trumas and Meisers. Okay?
So the Urim Tum was talking about the days of Yerushalmi?
Yeah, days of Yoshio, when they were going into the Or, at the same time they were going into the Urim Tum. Okay? What? Sure. It was one of the son of Menashe, wasn't he?
Grandson of Menashe.
Grandson. Achaz was his father. Was his father?
Yeah, something like that.
So it seems like the heat is on again. So what? Yeah. Let me open the door. Of course, not too late.
Do you mind if you call?
He's putting this in. Where we up to exactly? You still don't know?
Then based now.
Oh, I'm basically, okay, so on the other side.
Top line.
What? Top one?
Top word.
Top 40?
First word.
Alien?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So, says we're on top of Membez and Medalef. These Kohanim of questionable lineage, the reason why they were questionable lineage is because they were married into the family of Barzillai Giladi. Barzillai was a guy, according to the Gemara, although it's not at all clear in Tanakh it was a guy. He was an ally of David HaMelech at the time that David was fleeing from Avshalom at the end of Shmuel Beis. Okay? Is that familiar at all? No. Okay. What? You remember Barzillai? Okay, he lived on the other side of Jordan. He lived.
Barzillai was definitely a character.
Barzillai. Doesn't sound like an Italian name to me. Okay. So don't you learn Tanakh?
Sure I do.
Okay. Just checking. Says more. So Elim benos Barzillai. The daughters of Barzillai. For what purpose were they Megayer? L'shem Shemayin Nizgar, Shlo L'shem Shemayin. Was it for the sake of heaven or not? Yitem L'shem Shemayin Nizgar. They're going to say they Nizgar the same Shem Shemayin. So he's quite married to the family. Yochlu B'Kodesh Kiddushin. Let them eat korbanos because their wives are legitimate Jewesses. Yitem Shlo L'shem Shemayin Nizgar. We're going to say the wives were not Megayer Shem Shemayin. If you look Kodesh Gvula Yochlu, so he's crying with descendants of Nizgar Barzillai. They shouldn't even eat Truma the Rabbanim because they're not the Trumas outside the base of Mikdash. They're not Val Kohanim. Says more, no, you're forgetting something. I feel Taylor Shem Shemayim Nizgaru. If you even say they confer for the sake of heaven, but Gioris Lav Kazoiding Yetzel Kuna, don't you remember Gioris is not allowed to marry a Kohen. If a Gioris marries a Kohen, Gioris is possible Lakuna. So therefore, could be they convert L'Shem Shemayim, but that doesn't help vis-a-vis eating Trumas and Meisers, right? Because they're not true. That doesn't help vis-a-vis eating Kachim, because it's not truly Jewish. So says Gemara, well, if that's the case, then we're stuck. I mean, this doesn't say the Gemara, the whole thought process, but we're stuck in the other direction again. So how can they even eat Truma? How can these Kohanim, which are descended from Benos Barzilai, how can they even eat Truma? So it says the Gemara, if they weren't, the mothers weren't allowed to Kohanim. Says more interesting the discussion here. It says, you're right. The truth is that the daughters of Barzilai did not marry Kohanim. It was the granddaughters of Barzilai married Kohanim. So since the granddaughters of Barzilai married Kohanim, so therefore by that time they're already allowed to marry Kohanim. But then that begs the question again: does it no good? Because if that's the case, so then why should they be forbidden to eat korbanos? Let them eat korbanos too. But if it's the granddaughters, then korbanos shouldn't be a problem. So it says the Gemara, it must be told about the following. Well, actually, first we're going to ask questions. And they're regularly so, it's a problem. So Shai Terisol throws in a few words. They're not really necessary, but they do make life a bit easier. He throws in the words Ella, rather tell you about the daughters themselves were Giyorises, and they married the Kohanim, and they were Megayer. So what's inside that it should work? Why should it be okay? It says more because they were Megayer under 3 years old. Look, Rabbi Shimon. It's like Rabbi Shimon. The Rabbi Shimon Omer, Shimon says, Giyorish Nizgara Pchusa Mibashol Shoy V'Yamecha Begeris is Megayer under 3 years and 1 day. So then here we have to throw in the words Keshera L'Kahuna. She's kosher for Kahuna. Okay, and that's okay. That's why they're allowed to eat Kochi Agvul. Says Gemara, Harei Loya Bodasi Bo. How could you convert that young? Doesn't say the word Harei, but it should. Loya Bodasi Bo. She doesn't have das to be to go to the mikveh. How does the mikveh work for her? So says the Gemara, in here it should say instead of Osh B'Shid Bil, Mishid Bil, it say B'Shashid Bilu, Osa, actually. It's all one long sentence, so stop in the middle. It should be, Harei Loya Bodasi Bo, B'Shashid Bilu Osa. So rather it says more, became when she chozers tovel Shem Kedusha as Yisrael. When she's Megayer herself, she's Megayer over again when she becomes an adult. Okay? And that's precisely the point. This girl is Megayer under 3. She has to be tovel herself again when she becomes an adult. Now that means, even and this comes to explain, even though Rabbi Shimon is really considered to be Jewish, not Jewish, but from birth, but she's going to be Jewish enough to marry a Kohen, but not quite. Why? Because it looks like she's converting later in life. Why does it look like that? Because we make her toivel again when she becomes either an adult or close to an adult. So therefore, what Rabbi Yossi can live with the following dichotomy. It's Rabbi Yossi, right? Who is this? Rabbi Shimon, sorry. Shouldn't live with the following dichotomy. Since it looks like she's not a Kohen, so it looks like she was Megayer when she was an adult. So therefore, her husband, her descendants are not Kohanim vis-a-vis, even though she married a Kohen. Illegally, her husbands are not, her kids are not considered to be Kohanim vis-a-vis Korbanos and Beis Hamikdash. But since it is a Gegeris which is more effective, and theoretically should be effective completely in order to allow her to marry a Kohen, even though we forbid her to eat l'chatchila, but nevertheless, b'diavad, if she converted, so then we allow her to eat b'diavad. I'm sorry, it's not really b'diavad, but we allow her descendants to eat the trumas of a truma. It's very simple. I can't get it out right. She converted, she's under 3. That should be enough to make her eligible to marry a Kohen and their children be priestly status. But the problem is that she has to go to the mikveh again when she becomes an adult. So it looks like her conversion was not found when it was under 3. So that prevents her children from eating kachim in the Beis HaMikdash. But they did it, that Marisayin halacha was not enough to prevent their kids from eating truma. Okay?
Is it such a Maris Ayin issue, or is it the possibility that as an adult she could
be Meicha?
That's right.
No, it's possible that's the case. I don't know either way. It's possible. Yeah, that's the Sugin Ksuvas if we get cotton, right? It's quite possible. So it says more, Koachas Gioresi. Again, nevertheless, she looks like a Giores. I'm not, the word achas is kind of obscure what it means here, but she looks like a Giores Gezonin Eitzel Kuna. And the Giores like a Zona by Kuna, so therefore she her progeny can't eat Korbanos, even though they can't eat Truma. That's kind of like the compromise position. Says the Gemara, once we're on the topic of Geras, and this I don't recall from elsewhere in the Yerushalmi. Even though it should have been Yavamas, but here it is. Hamizgai l'shem Ava. So touching. Person got converted for the purpose of romance. Okay? For romantic interest, right? Or, it's interesting. Hamizgai l'shem Ava. V'chein ish b'nei isha. And also somebody who's Megayah become man because of a woman. So I guess the love before was the love of the Sprindel principle. In other words, it doesn't mean love of women, but rather love of money. Or something like that. Because here, Ish and Isha is a separate category, right? So, or V'chein Ish and Isha, a woman gets converted because of a man. V'chein Ger Shulchan Malachim, so to Gerim and Megar, because they want to enjoy the princely status of the Jews. V'chein Ger Rais. People convert like the Samaritans because they're being attacked by lions. Mordechai and so to Gerim converted days of Mordechai and Esther when they're fearful of Jews. And Makabim Osam, we don't accept them. We push them away. That's not a valid reason to convert. Right, and this I don't remember this from elsewhere. Maybe this is the source of this halacha that we put. People who come for those reasons, motivated by these reasons, we don't accept. I don't know, but here it is in any event.
Does the Bible refer to Gary Mordechai and Esther? There's such a reference to it?
I don't remember. I can't vouch for that. I want to say that it is referred to elsewhere because it was not a foreign term when I came across it, but I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. So Rav says, if they got past the committee, the review process, and they got in, they aren't Gerim. Not only that, we don't push them aside anymore, which as we do to Gerim when they come before they're converted, right? Rather, we accept them and we have to try and bring them closer to us. So fascinating thing, really it's like almost like what a guideline which one can use for say a conservative Gerus, right? You don't necessarily push them off then. You want to be Makari them, although here it's not 100% comparable because here obviously it's an Orthodox Gerus just with improper motivations, but maybe it's the same thing. Even where they're proper motivations and improper Gerus, maybe also Makari of them, we try to get them to complete the process. I don't know. So in any event, Gary al-Shem, getting back to the main issue which you're talking about here, how we know the Gerim came up to Eretz Yisrael with Ezra, says, everybody separated themselves from the impurity of the nations of the world to join the Jews. Okay? Charui released slave, al-Shem it says, call them the Sinim, or the Gibeonites of Gomer, etc., and the rest of the pasuk says speaks about Avodim who were released. Mamzere, how do we know they come up? Rabbi Zimmer says that we darshan. See if it says Ve'elo Mitel Melach Tel Charsha. These are the ones who came up from the mound of salt, the mound of plowing. Mitel Melach Zeh Bavel. Tel Melach is Bavel. Tel Charsha Elu Shesuki Ve'asufe. That's referring to people who are silent, meaning because they don't know their fathers, they don't know both parents are. So they're cheresh, they're silent. So that's called tel charsha. Kruv, people came from Kruv. Elu mamzerim, that's referring to the mamzerim. That's where Kruv is supposed there. Why is it referring to mamzerim? Rovim elu means these young lads who followed their eyes and were enticed into compromising situations and had mamzerim. It says then they came up from Adon and also a place called Amer. Even though it sounded like more of the Shaita Yisrael throws it in. Shomrim, these people, the Mamzerim said, Ein din, there's no judgment. Vein Adon, there's no master. I mean, their parents said that. and that's how they conceive little mamzerim. Rabbi Chizkiah mapik lishnei. The Chizkiah expressed it differently. He said, "Elu sholchu acharei neim." That those who follow their eyes. V'amar, they said, "Le'zdin din vein dayan." There's no judge nor justice, and therefore we'll do as we please, even if it creates mamzeros. V'emar, why did it say emar? Shehimu l'kel ma'asem shabar haroim. They exchange the Kodesh Baruch Hu with their negative or their bad deeds. Rabbi Amos Rabbi Bilach said, "Pirsamu atzmo." They publicize their sin by creating mamzerim ke'imra b'chol, look like the hem of a garment. Levi Shemar Shimon Logish said, yet another allegorical interpretation of the pasuk. It would have been suitable to become a pillar of stone. Why are they not? Because there was a special silence in the Midas Adin and employing of the Midas Arachim, and therefore, despite their many iniquities, they survived the time of Esther and Nehemiah. Tel Charsha, what does Tel Charsha mean? A different interpretation. Rabbi Yisrael Levi said, "Al Shem." It's going on actually the Gibeonites, and so because it says, "Right then Yoshua Bayomo Yoshua made them when they came during his day. He made them chud v'eitzim Yoshua b'mayim. He made them wood choppers and bucket drawers, water bucket drawers. So therefore, Chorash is like it's like a play on words for a carpenter. They were like carpenters, the Gibeonites. So that's Tel Chorash. So says the Gemara. Tani Rabbi Yamsher Meshur B'Levi said, "I'll shame by." I skipped up. Anyway, let me just read from there. Tel Chasha. Tani Rabbi Yamsher Meshur B'Levi. I'll shame by Nevel Yoshua B'Yamul Chol Beitzim Meshur B'Mayim La'ida. There's more nichulate. I understand fine that they became the water carriers for the congregation. But the Mizbach Hashem, where they serve the Mizbech, it says that they serve the Mizbach Hashem. Ela tloyin Yoshua b'dofen. Yoshua hung them on their own wall, meaning he said, "You are trapped." And he said to them, Amar, he said, "Ani lo mekarvon." Literally, he left them on the shelf. He said, "Ani lo mekarvon." I am not going to do anything to you, Gibeonites. I'm not going to make you closer. I'm not going to distance you. Mishu also leave notice based on the person who eventually is going to build a base of Mikdash. He'll decide, those he wants to draw them nigh, he'll draw them nigh. Those he wants to distance, he will distance. But David he left it open. And then David came and distanced the Gibeonites from the congregation of Israel. Shneimar says, the Gibeonites are not from the Jews. Why distance them from us? I'll shame because of the following fascinating issue. There was the famine in the days of David. 3 years, 1 year after the other consecutively. David said, I don't understand what's going on. Why are we having in times of David such a terrible famine? There are 4 reasons for rain to stop. Because of the idolaters, particularly Arias, and because of the licentious individuals, and the murderous individuals, and acquainted with who place get stuck about people make pledges, give stuck in public, and they are nice to them, and they never cough up the dough. Okay? So,
Doesn't the body equate that to like a Bodazar or something?
Yeah, I think so. I think there was some case probably. So Bone asked, "Oh, the Avodah Mina. How do we know the Avodah Zarah?" They Kodesh Baruch was upset at them, and distances them. How we know that? How we know that Avodah Zarah? Because it says in Kriya Shema we say, "Minaiko says Yerushalmi Kiddushin, be careful lest your heart be led astray." Maxi Baser would say subtly that V'choraf Hashem bochem, I shall be upset at you. But Tashmaim is going to stop of the heavens for going to Mitzvah. But the guy rise now. Now do we know that people die from Gilead? Yes, because it says not the people die, but rather the rains cease. I apologize. Babon got right, specifically 9, we know Shukra says, you've made the land full of flattery, but you in your schemes of and your evil. What's the punishment of this? If you manu revivim, the rains will cease, and the second rain will not come, the government, etc. But we know that if there's shevech dam, unnecessarily, that we could make a judgment against them. It says because it is blood, and it stains the land. Okay, so says more further. Well, actually, that's how you know the shvil is done. It doesn't allow the crops to come out during the year, right? From the oretz. So there's more about poskim tzaka brayim and nosim. I know people who stipulate they're going to give tzaka and they don't give it. Minai, because it says nesiyim v'ruach v'geshem ayin. There's no wind, no clouds, no wind, no rain. Why? Because ish misam ma'at nasher. Because people are taking pride in their false pledges. So these are the 4 elemental reasons. But David checked his entire generation for Matzah Chamem. He didn't find one of these 4 reasons. Right? So why is it not raining? So it says more he started asking the Urim and Tumim what the problem is. Right? So although Stephen Sabbath says by Evakish David is Pnei Hashem, the David quested the countenance of Hashem, Urim v'Tumim through the breastplate. Rabbi Elizabeth says, it says, Bakshu is Hashem Kohan Ve'oretz, quest after Kodesh Baruch Hu, all the humble of the land. Asher Mishpata Polo, because his justice is his activity. Ma'asher Mishpata Polo, what does it mean that? What does that mean? Shua said Mishpata Polo, he does justice and he does kind works at the same time. It's like Zach and Sherman together. Where we see it says, Vayomer Hashem said, you know why you had famine for 4 years? I'll show Ba'beis Adamin. Because of Shol and this house of blood. What does it mean? On Shol, you're not getting punished because of him. You're getting punished because of him. Because it says, Shlo Asisimo Chesed. You didn't do Chesed with him. Ba'beis Adamim, on the house of blood, I'll share him because he killed the Gibeonites. Okay? So, so for both things, the rain stopped and there ensued a famine. So David sent a message to the Gibeonites. He said, Malachem Beishol, what's bothering you about the house of Shol? That this terrible retribution. Amalei, so he said, now the truth is that in the Bavli, I think it says that what's bothering them was that they used to receive their nourishment from their trade with Novir Kohanim. And Novir Kohanim was destroyed at Shaul's behest because it harbored David for a very short period of time. Okay, so that's what he says here. Because we already lost 7 people. What are these 7 people? It explains, right. Shnei Choteim, two wood choppers, Shnei Shavayim, and 2 water carriers, the Chazan and the Chazan, the Sefer and the Shamer. So since they lost them, so therefore we demand retribution and Shaul should be killed. Armon, so he said, well, actually, we already had Shaul's name. Shaul's kid. So it says, Ma'atun, David, but we don't know yet. David asked back to them. He said to them, Armon, Ma'atun, boy, what do you want now? Armon, so he said, you told us, we want 7 of Shaul's kids. Well, Hashem give us Shaul, Hashem will kill them as a retribution for having killed our guys. Armon, so he said, what honor do you get from that? If he's dead, it won't bring back your dead relatives. It's kind of like an early death penalty protest, But what does it do for you to kill him at this juncture, right? It won't do any good. So it says the Gemara, he said, take gold and silver. He said, the Gibeonite, I guess, responded, whatever was having this conversation. We don't have money desires. Ein liksiv. the Kri is Lon, the way it's read, but the Ksiv, the way it's written, is Li. Why is that? Both are sure at that time, Omar David said, Shlosh Matanos Tovos, Nasa Kodesh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Kodesh Baruch Hu, David said that Hashem gave us 3 precious gifts. Rachmanim, that were merciful, by Shanim were
Like 2 lines.
That's good.
Yeah. It's Solomon has.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Solomon Ksafu Dav, Vavaran, they said, Kesim Yishol, Vim Beso. Omar, so he said, Dilma Dinam Batin, Pagum, maybe they're afraid, a few from a few, in other words, maybe I need to divide and conquer. Maybe I have to get each one separately, try by them separately. So he says, the Gemara, what do you do? So, Nasav Kol Chai took every one, Vavam Faisele Kumi Garmei. And he tried to atone them in front of himself. Vuamar, Vavamar, he said to him, Ma no Yisochdin was Kathleen. What pleasure do you have? David said to the Gibeonites, what pleasure do you have that children, his kids, are killed? Sabluch to Tabuk Sab. He said each one take gold and silver. And each one would say, Ein Lanu Kesef Im Shovim Beso. Ein Li Ksiv. It even says, though it says Ein Lanu in the plural, the Ksiv is Ein Li, and that teaches us that they were, you went to each one independently. Both are sure at that time, David said, God gave 3 precious gifts to the Jewish people. What are they? They are Rachmanim Hashem and Goyim Chasodim, right? Rachmanim Minaina, we know that the Rachmanim means because it says Natzal Charichamim. Rachmanim Hashem gives the Rachmanim. By Shana Minaina, we know that they're humble because it says not humble, that they're susceptible to shame. It says, in order that there should be the fear of God upon your faces, so we say that means to say, anyway, it says, Yosef Nechem, right, and a bison, you can tell in his face when he's embarrassed because of something, or humble because of something. V'chol she'en l'boshes panim, anybody that's not easily embarrassed or humble, it's clear, his 4 parts are not stand Mount Sinai. Golei Chasodim, we know the Golei Chasodim are not valid as the central trait of the Jewish people. It says, Hashem will preserve for you the covenant and the mercy. So we see the mercy is an integral component. And David said the Gibeonites have one of these traits are appointed by Shorin and Golei Chasodim. So it says Miyad immediately Amad Verichkum, he distanced them from Am Yisrael. Shemar says V'Gibeonim, the Gibeonites they are not members of the Jewish people. Af Ezer Richon, so therefore Ezer also distanced them. Shemar says V'Nesinim Yoshim B'Ophel, and Nesim sat somewhere on the outskirts of Shemaim in a place called Ophel. And even in the ultimate future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Merach Kon, Hashem distances the Gibeonites. The Chsiv it says V'Oved Ha'ir. For some reason, these employees in the cities are meant the Gibeonites. Yavdu, literally means they'll work, but there's a Kriya Ksiv here. It says in the pasuk, Yaviduhu. They'll be with an aleph, which is that they'll be, they'll cause them to be lost, and Baruch Hu causes the Gibeonites to be lost, being separated from Israel. But the king said, Ani Yatain. The king said, I'm going to give the 7 people to the Gibeonites. He had no choice. It stops the family. So he got 7 people. I get 7 people. So it says that the king took a Shnebnei Ritzvah Bas Ayah, two sons of Shaul's concubine, Ritzvah Ayah, Shaul, she gave the birth to these people to Shaul. Aside money, investment, Fivoshes, these people who enumerated there. And it says there that he took 5 of Michal's kids. Wait a minute, how can we 5 Michal's kids? Michal Bashol, loyal of Vladio Moshe. It says Michal never need kids. So how can you take Michal's kids? More Metos, so he says, no, really B'nai Meirav. They were Michal's sister Meirab's kids. and Michal, and since Michal raised him, Nikra Shmo, they're called by her name. Okay? Vayitnem biyara divonim vayokinim vayokinum ba'ahar lifnei Hashem vayiblu shivasim yachad. All 7 were killed in Gibon. Chaser Yud, but it's missing a Yud. Why did it say Shiva? Not sure which word is missing the Yud. What? Which one?
I was first said by your name, but it's not, obviously.
No, which word is missing the Yud? It says Shivasai, and we read it Shivasa. Okay. Zel Mephibosheth ben Yonasan. Why is that? Because this is not all the ones who were selected were killed, because Yonasan Mephibosheth, the son of Yonasan, the son of Shaul, which was David's favorite, David was able to save. And it says here, Shu Adam Gadol b'Torah. He was a great man in Torah. But Nasan David ain't able to tell me and David wanted to save him from the Gibeonites. Amar David said, "Ready my beer and their mizbeach." Before giving them over to the Gibeonites, he had them go in front of the mizbeach. The Komish of mizbeach called Torah, and he said, "Anybody the mizbeach absorbs him, prevents him from going. Harishly, you have to leave him with me." And he took all the people in front of the mizbeach, and V'nispal love he davened for Mephibosheth, Baal Mizbeach Koto, and the Mizbeach absorbed him and he got him off the hook. Although see that's how it says, Ekro Elokim Elyon. I'll call to God on high, Lekel Gomer like to the God who finishes with me, in other words, agrees with me. Shizkim HaKadosh Baruch Hu David Hashem agreed with David that Mephibosheth should be saved. Anyway, so these 7 guys were killed, but you make Tzir B'Rishonim, in the days of harvest, it means in the first days of the harvest. But in the first days of the barley harvest, which is early in the wheat harvest. But the God Ritza Basai Sasaka, they were still hanging there. Ritza Basai took a sackcloth. But they tell you what she spread it, so she spread it on a rock nearby to keep away the vultures. Ma'alat Sor, why on a rock? And Rabbi Yosha said, Shoy Somer, she was saying, Hatsur Tamim Polo, which of course is the Tziduk Hadin, justification of God's heavenly justice. All of his acts are perfect. Rabbi Abba Bazim the Abishar said, God will Kiddush Hashem, Yichil Hashem. The concept of Kiddush Hashem is greater than Chil Hashem. B'Chil Hashem, it says, Chil Hashem tells us, don't leave a dead carcass hanging from a tree overnight, because the Chil Hashem, because of the divine image of a human being, right? But, with the Kiddush Hashem, in order to demonstrate to the whole world that that David pursued the justice for the Gibeonites, which is Kiddush Hashem, it says that the bodies were hanging out there from the beginning of the harvest until water came down upon them, which is several months later. They were dangling for the 60th day of Nisan to the 7th day of Marchesh, about 5-6 months. For you when people would pass by they said, why people sin so much that the midas of them was changed them that they're hanging for so long? For you remember the response would be received. Al shaposh yadayim became grim because they brushed against and they used they came into clash with Gam Grim with the poor Gibeonites. So the Gibeonites were entitled to exact retribution as a result. Amru. So people going past the Bar, they say, "Ooh, Mayim Elu." If these Jews should, what? The Jew, go on. Sorry, Mayim Elu Shaloni's Gairu L'Shem Shine. They wouldn't convert for the sake of heaven. Ru'ech Tavakosh Baruch and see how Kosh Baruch Hu took their revenge from them. Right? Hamiz Gairu L'Shem Shine. Somebody does convert L'Shem Shine. Allah has kama much more so will Kosh Baruch will take up his cause. Okay? Harbe Gam this guy about Shah. And many governments guy when they heard about this whole business with Shaul and Ritza Asaya, this whole thing which obviously there was a lot of divine control, that many people were Megayer at that time. Okay? Although since that's how it says, by Spor Shlomo Nashim Hagerim Shlomo counted all the Gam were with him. They asked him, Shirim Elf Nosei Savo. He had 70,000 porters, and Shmoni El Chotei Bar 80,000 warriors. So obviously it was a large influx of immigration at the time, right? So they came from Goy, and I didn't get cheap Vietnamese workers back then. They got Gerim to do the work instead. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Bikshu Karvan. In the days of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, they wanted to bring the Yevoni back into the Jewish fold. Rabbi Avo, it should be Mapik Lishna. Rabbi Avo changed the language. He said, Bimei Rabbi Elazar said it should be, in the days of Rabbi Elazar, there's a word missing here, which is Hakereach. In the days of the bald Rabbi Elazar. This is the one of the Yisraelim says we see from this Gemara that Rabbi Elazar was bald. And the question is how do you see he's bald? Doesn't say unless you throw the word Kereach over here. So anyway, that's not a fulfilled gifts for the Yisraelim. Self-fulfilling fruit, right? So that Amr they said Mi Matar Chokom Mizbeach. In David they said who's going to be Matar the Chelek on the Mizbeach? Was that Moshe Rabbeinu destined them to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. So Adar Maraz teaches us that Yoshua Richkan, that arrayed those times of Moshe Rabbeinu and Yoshua, the array the Givenites were pushed aside, shunned aside by the unique status. Right? Says the Gemara, Ravo. I feel taking Yeshua Richkon. Says more, no, even Yeshua distanced him, still was left up to David, the major part. You know why? Because Klum Richkon el Psuli Mishpacha. He only distanced them because of the potential Psulim in the Mishpacha, with whom they married, right? However, in Temer Shum Psuli Edus, there's a different level. What? I'm sorry, Mishum Psuli Abdus. There is, he just said because they were, I'm sure I got absolutely Chomer right, 1 second. Yeah, he didn't just say that they wouldn't be considered Jews, he just didn't say because of Yichus reasons. And what's the proof of that? Because it says elsewhere that if you rape a Nesina, she has a Knas. And if they're not Jewish at all, why should they get a Knas, right? Mata ba Nesina, lo yeh ben Knas. But they must be Jewish. Rabbi Elazar said, they are Jewish, but rather they were cursed like the snake. Shema says, it says you are cursed. It says, it says subsequent there too, that the Jews spoke to the Chivi, and that's the Givenites. Chivi are you? Are they really Chivi, one of the Canaanite nations? El Shosu Maisa Chivi. They acted like Chivi. Amay say, Yodeani, Shema Kodesh Baruch Hu. Now somehow we switch between this. Oh, I'm sorry. Shosu Maisa Chivi means they acted like the first snake. The snake in Gan Eden. Amr who said, the snake said, Yodeani, Shema Kodesh Baruch Hu. I know Hashem said, Kivyom ha'chocha mimenu mos tamus. I know Hashem said on the day you wait for you to die. And I assume when he meant this, Nachash knew that he too would die, right? He too would die in that day. That's because he was cursed also, right? Somehow he knew that. I don't know how he knew that. But he knew that too, that it would also be a pitfall for him. And the radio said, no, actually that's not the case. Sorry. He knew that the Adam Mechaba would die. And he said, El radio lech and tough. I'm going to go and trick them until they eat. They're going to eat and be punished. But I'm going to inherit the land to myself. So too, the Givenites did. They said, so too the Givenites did when Yeshua entered the land of Israel with Am Yisrael. They said, Hashem said, eradicate them, and it also says, not allowed to make a covenant with the 7 nations. But we're going to go and trick them, pretending to come from very far away. That's Givenites did. They'll make a covenant with us. So now, no matter what, we'll get them. If they kill us, or they transgress the shvur, and God will kick them out of the nation. Even though we won't gain, but we'll get the Jews, right? And if they leave us alive, they're going to transgressed the Gzeira to kill all the 7 umos. But somehow, only Yoshim Asaretz, I'm not sure how they inherit the land if they all get killed. I guess some of them will get killed, some of them will remain alive. Okay, so in any event, that's how the Gibeonites came, and that's the story of the Gibeonites and how they came in the time of Yeshua. But Yeshua really left them dangling until David HaMelech later on was the one who ultimately finally rejected them and repudiated them from Israel, because it was indicated that they weren't Rachmanim by Shem and Gomer. Okay, we'll stop here. Still have a couple of blocks left to finish. Hopefully, maybe we can learn once or twice over Chomoid. Otherwise, we'll finish over after Sukkot.
This is an unbelievable amount of Agadah.
Yeah, it's a lot of Agadah. It's interesting. I should say that in the standard sources, understood that the Gibeonites were demanded retribution because when Nov Ira Kohanim was killed, they lost their parnosa because they used to be the suppliers for Nov Ira Kohanim. But here it says there were 7 specific Gibeonites who had been killed. Okay, that's all.